How is it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Play by Play podcast. I'm your host, Diego Gallegos. This is episode number 40 of the podcast, where today we will be doing a full preview and early season prediction of the AFC South, as well as doing a very quick review of the current status of the NBA during the Summer League, looking at the new rookies. If you guys haven't yet, if you're watching this on YouTube, please feel free to subscribe, leave a like on the video, share it with your friends, and comment down below what you thought about the episode, what I got right, what I got wrong. And if you have not already, please feel free to go ahead and follow us on all social medias, that being TikTok, Instagram, and X/Twitter, where you can see clips from the podcast, weekly Sunday posts called Storybook Sundays, where we go back in time throughout NBA and NFL history and look at some really unknown facts throughout those leagues' history, and as well as my instant reactions to breaking news in both of those two sports. The TikTok is at official play-by-play. The Instagram is going to be play-by-play_podcast, and the X/Twitter account is play-by-play_pod0. All of those ads will be in the description. Again, if you're watching this on YouTube, as well as Spotify and Apple Podcasts, it will be in the episode description, so check that out. Now it is time to get into the episode. We're going to start in the NBA, just doing a really quick review of what is going on right now as far as rookies. The Summer League has started, and it has been so entertaining. We have already seen so many young, youthful players. We've also seen, as we do every single year, some surprises, some really solid players come out that we did not really know about. Let's start with the battle between the top two picks in the draft. Zachary Reese-Shea and Alex Sarr went head-to-head, the Atlanta Hawks and the Washington Wizards. And both players really surprised me with how they played, especially Reese-Shea. He used his length very well in that game. He was able to get to the rim pretty much at will. He played at a speed very similar to the way that Luka Doncic plays, a very slowed down speed, almost to a walk, which makes me very annoyed when I watch Luka play, but he was still able to get to the rim. His shot looked great. It looked phenomenal, which is what Atlanta is going to want to need. That is their plan for him, to be a great spot-up shooter. Like I said, he did not show a lot of great athleticism, but using his length to be able to get to the rim and using his length defensively really helped them out. Where on the other end, Alex Sarr really showed his all-around play style. He was incredible as a rim protector, had 4 blocks in the game, had a series of plays where he had back-to-back blocks in one single play, which was absolutely amazing. He was able to stretch the floor very well, showed off some of his great athleticism, even picked up some steals and was able to rebound. He is definitely still my favorite and top player out of this draft. You also had the NBA G League Ignite boys, Matas Buzelas and Ron Holland, recording the exact same stats in both of their debuts, and they both had very differing games. When you look at Matas's game, he was very controlled, used a lot of his bag, was very shifty in his way to get past defenders, used a lot of his great length as well as to be able to get to the rim, had a very decent shot on him. Whereas you look at Ron Holland, he really, once again, what we saw from out of G League Ignite, really used his length to continue to be a dog in attacking the rim at will. It was really impressive the way that he was able to attack the rim. I believe they both recorded 18 points each, which is a huge accomplishment for two teams in the Bulls and Pistons who don't really have very much of a future for them right now. You had Bub Carrington for the Washington Wizards. Totally dismissed him, was fully focused on Alex Sarr. Bub Carrington showing out with 19 points, showed a beautiful three-point jumper, was absolutely lacing three-point jumpers all throughout the night in his first game, and showed a really nice core IQ about him, really allowed his plays to really develop, was a solid playmaker, and also displayed himself as an incredible scorer as well, which brings me to two other players, speaking of great scoring guards, in Terrence Shannon Jr. and Rob Dillingham, that backcourt duo for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I'm going to say it here and now. Terrence Shannon Jr. is going to be the biggest steal of the 2024 draft. I'm calling it now. I absolutely love this man coming out of Illinois. He was somebody that I thought should have been in Bub Carrington's spot, where as of being at the end of the lottery, being an end of lottery draft pick, in that 13th or 14th spot. Unfortunately for him, obviously, got in a little bit of trouble off the court for a case that I believe right now he did not even commit. We're going to have to see what goes on with that. I think it's pretty much dismissed at this point, but because of that, he was pushed down the draft board. But you want to talk about dog mentality. His dog mentality is absolutely incredible. He attacks the rim with an aggression. He absolutely slams the ball into the hoop with just a serious aggression. He is nonstop coming at you. His speed, his athleticism, his ability to get great vertical leap on his dunks is incredible. He has a great shot, and like his counterpart in Rob Dillingham, he is very, very shifty. He is able to get past his defenders with a plethora of different moves, and his defense is very impressive. It is even better than Rob Dillingham, who, as we know, is not a very great defender, but I believe that he is a little bit more of an all-around better player than Rob Dillingham. He may not have the offensive potential that he has, but he is definitely better defensively, and with his ability to get to the rim like that, oh my goodness, it was impressive. So there have been a lot of stars. There have also been a lot of people that have been a little bit disappointing, as of course we were talking about Bronny James. Has not made a three-pointer yet in his summer league, I don't know what you call it, summer league series of games. Has really struggled offensively. He called himself at the end of the last game saying that he was in a little bit of a slump. And to be honest, it seems like there's a little bit of a lack of motivation, of course, a lack of experience. Shout out to Awful Coaching on YouTube. If you guys have not seen him, he is absolutely hilarious in doing his reviews on current basketball games. Go ahead and check him out. But he pointed out something that I felt was very, very interesting, where there was several series of plays where Bronny James would stand on the outside of the perimeter. A lot of times he would walk back and transition defense. There is just not a want there to show himself, to want to make the team, to want to make an impact on the floor. There is no extra energy from Bronny James right now, which is really, really affecting his game. And especially when he's not hitting his three-pointers right now. As a playmaker, he is not allowing plays to develop. He does not know when to call for ball screens. He is not very impressive coming off of ball screens. As we saw, I had previously mentioned Matas Buzelis. Matas is somebody that does incredible coming off of ball screens. It is really how he was able to get most of his points in his game, was coming off that ball screen, setting his feet, pump faking, and then going to the rim, or coming off the screen, catching the ball, and shooting it immediately. Bronny has just not shown that same ability. He does a pretty solid job at attacking the rim, but because of his size, he is just getting caught in the trees and getting the ball absolutely rejected. And because of all the attention that he's getting, I think that a lot of people are not looking at Dalton Connect the same way. He has had a pretty solid summer league. It wasn't the best of what I expected from him efficiency-wise. I believe he's shooting like 37% from the three-point line, but he has still been shooting with a lot of confidence. He's been shooting solidly, and he has been getting to the rim very great as well. So I say that we shift a little bit of this attention off Bronny James and begin to focus on Dalton Connect, because he is going to be the person that is going to be impacting the Lakers right away, not Bronny James. Bronny James, a little bit of lack of motivation there. Need to see him want to be on the floor now. Let me know what you guys think about the Summer League, who your guys' top players are right now, who's kind of disappointing you. I can kind of guess who you guys are probably going to say. But with that, we move from the Summer League to the main point of the episode, which is the AFC South. Now, when it comes to the AFC South, I told you guys a little bit of the history of the AFC West the last episode. The AFC South has not shared some of the same success that the AFC West has shared recently. In fact, there is only one franchise in the AFC South who has won a Super Bowl, and that is, of course, the Indianapolis Colts, who had some solid success throughout the late 90s and early 2000s. Outside of that, there hasn't really been a team from the AFC South that has shown the same dominance as the Denver Broncos did from some time, as the Kansas City Chiefs are showing right now. And it has been a division that has probably been one of the least exciting and least watched. It has been a division that has not been filled with a lot of stacked quarterback play. I mean, when you look at the Houston Texans in their history, who is their best quarterback? Matt Shaw, possibly. If you look at the Jacksonville Jaguars, Mark Brunell, I guess you could say. Colts obviously have Peyton Manning. Tennessee Titans, You have Steve McNair, whose prime was very, very short. There just has not been a lot of this excitement in the history of the AFC South. But I think that that is destined to change. I think that we are starting to see some of that high level quarterback play, some of that high level head coaching coming to the AFC South. And I think it's going to start to show these teams are going to start to sneak into the playoffs, and they're going to begin to start pretty deep playoff runs. But what is important to note is there going to be a team that is going to be able to show consistency? Because when you look at recent AFC championship games throughout the NFL, there have been some AFC South teams that have been able to make it, but no team has been able to make it consecutive times in a row. The Jacksonville Jaguars made it in 2019, 2020, I believe. Then I believe the Tennessee Titans made it a year or two later. Outside of that, and then let me see. Let me actually see, just so I'm not shooting darts in the dark right here. Let's go ahead and check out, because I looked at this a little bit earlier. Let's see. Yeah, so we had the Tennessee Titans make it in 2019. The Jacksonville Jaguars made it in 2017. And then the Indianapolis Colts made it all the way back in 2014. So you see, while there has been a little bit of success, while there has been teams in the AFC South that have been able to creep in and make deeper playoff runs, there hasn't been very many teams that have been able to be consistent. I mean, when you look at the Jacksonville Jaguars, after that 2017 appearance, they pretty much imploded. The Tennessee Titans have not had the same success, have moved off of quarterback Ryan Tannehill, who moved, and head coach Mike Vrabel, who got them to that point. The Indianapolis Colts in 2014, they have not been able to repeat that success, despite having solid veteran quarterbacks such as Matt Ryan and Phillip Rivers come into the fray. So the question for these AFC South teams is, because there are going to be a couple of these teams that I think are going to be solid for years to come, but are they going to be able to be consistent and still continue to be at the top of the AFC? So AFC South way too early 2024-2025 season predictions. I have the Houston Texans coming in first place at 13-4. I have the Indianapolis Colts at 6-11, coming in second. The Jacksonville Jaguars tied the Indianapolis Colts in third at 6-11. And then I have the Tennessee Titans coming in last place at 5-11. So let's start with the Houston Texans, a team that is going to be one of the surefire picks to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl this year. I fully believe. Last year, they went 10-6. This year, I have them taking a little bit more of a jump, taking about 3 wins more at 13-4. Now, this is going to be a little bit difficult for them to accomplish, because when you look at their schedule, they actually have the 26th easiest schedule in the league. They have a top 6 hardest schedule in this league. And when you look at it, it is a bloodbath, especially early on. You have the Chicago Bears, the Buffalo Bills, the Green Bay Packers. You then move into the midpoint of the season where you have the New York Jets, the Detroit Lions. They face off against the Dallas Cowboys, the Miami Dolphins, rematch the Kansas City Chiefs, rematch the Baltimore Ravens. There are a lot of top-heavy teams in this schedule, but I think that with some of the moves that they have made, this can make them very competitive and push them over the edge to win against so many of these tough teams. We've seen them. They traded for Stephon Diggs from the Buffalo Bills. They were able to trade Joe Mixon for a 6th-round pick from the Cincinnati Bengals, who, if he can stay healthy, will bolster a running attack that was pretty subpar last year and was one of the reasons why down the stretch they got stopped by top-heavy defenses such as the Baltimore Ravens. They actually had the 22nd rushing offense in the league. They did have the 7th best passing offense. And so adding in Joe Mixon, who's going to be able to bolster that running game, adding in Stephon Diggs, DeMeco Ryans can now play a game in cat and mouse where he's going to have to balance these two, and it's going to make them a little bit more unpredictable. It's going to make their attack more unpredictable, which is going to make them hard to scheme against and is going to not allow teams to focus on sole players. You still have Tank Dell, you still have Nico Collins, you still have Dalton Schultz at tight end, who had a great solid season as their starting tight end for them. This offense is going to be able to fire on all cylinders. Now, the point that you're going to have to focus on for them is defensively, something that I never thought that I would say about a DeMeco Ryans team, because it was a team that was 23rd in passing defense last year. It is a team that lacks depth when it comes to the cornerback position. And they were able to pick up, I believe it was their third round pick in Kamari Lassiter at defensive back. But when you look at the state of this roster, it still is not very pretty when it comes to their secondary. And it's something that they're going to focus on. It's something that I think that we should look at for them as far as the trade deadline comes in. They picked up Jeff Okudah from the Detroit Lions, but he has been injury prone in his career, has not turned out. Jimmy Ward on the older side of the veteran side. Derek Stingley Jr. has been solid. So you have a lot of solid players. Desmond King, the second, plug in at nickelback. There are a lot of solid players at corner, but not really that number one overall corner. Now, what they are lacking in the secondary, they are doing pretty solidly in the front seven when it comes to pressuring the football. They added Danielle Hunter this season, which is a big addition to sit across from Will Anderson Jr. The problem for them is going to be in the middle of that defensive line at that nose tackle. They were able to get Danico Autry from the Tennessee Titans, I believe. So hopefully he can be somebody that can plug the middle, but he is very below average. But still, Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson Jr., Christian Harris, Aziz Al-Sher, this is going to be a bolstered pass rush who is going to need to get to the quarterback quickly, especially when you're facing very great quarterbacks such as Lamar Jackson, you're going to need to contain. Patrick Mahomes, who you're going to need to contain. Jared Goff, who can spread the ball down the field. They are going to need to get to the quarterback very quickly so that this secondary cannot be exposed. But if they can do that, which I think they can, I think that they can compete and win most of these games, especially teams that still are just possibly a level behind some of the top teams, such as Chicago, Buffalo, Green Bay, where Jordan Love is a little bit young. We don't know what the state of Aaron Rodgers is going to be. So against teams such as the Bears, Bills, Packers, Jets, who they start the season against, I think that they are going to be fine as long as they can get to the quarterback quickly. So I have them taking a little bit of a step up, but we're going to need to see more out of their secondary, and we're going to need to see more out of that running game to make the offense more unpredictable, but have them at the top of the division. Moving on to the second place in the division, you have the Indianapolis Colts, who really from a loss perspective didn't really lose anybody really huge. In fact, they really only gained from their draft. Now, what I did not like about their draft, I think they got a lot of talented players. I think they got some steals. Laitu Leitao was likely my top pass rusher. He slid down a couple of boards just due to some injury concerns. Adonai Mitchell had some attitude concerns, but I think was an absolute steal in the second round and is going to bolster a pass attack that now includes Michael Pittman, who I think has established himself as a very great receiver in this league. What I do not like about Indianapolis's approach is just like Houston, they did not improve their secondary whatsoever. You had a lot of great cornerbacks in this draft. Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, you have Kool-Aid McKinstry, who fell to the second round. They had opportunities to improve this secondary, and they just didn't. And it was a secondary they were 24th in total defense. They were 16th in passing defense. They were 24th. They were 24th in rushing defense, despite having a very solid pass rush, despite adding Laitu Leitao to a very solid pass rush. That includes, sorry, I'm going to the depth chart real quick just so I can see all the players. That now includes guys such as DeForest Buckner, Zaire Franklin, Samson Ebukam. Their secondary is just not, there's no depth here. They have Juju Brent, Jalen Jones. Julian Blackmon is very solid at safety. Nobody that I really like at nickelback. So it's another situation that we look at for them with Houston, where the pass rush is going to need to get there. Now, the problem that they have opposed from Houston is they have a little bit of a quarterback problem. Anthony Richardson is talented. There is nothing to say about him. But I believe he only played 4 games last season, having injury concerns, who I would compare to somebody that we've seen, such as Robert Griffin III, with his mobility. It is really concerning. And it was an offense that really, really missed that push from Anthony Richardson. It's an offense that, like I said, is very talented, having Michael Pittman Jr. You add Adonai Mitchell. You have Jonathan Taylor, one of the top running backs in the league. Let's see here. Alec Pierce, who I think is a very underrated wide receiver in the league. But Richardson is going to need to stay healthy, because it was a team that, despite having one of the best running backs in the league, despite having top targets, was 20th in passing offense and 25th in passing touchdowns and 23rd in red zone offense, because just like we spoke on with Houston being predictable when it came to their passing game, Indianapolis relied too much on their running game. And when it came to the red zone, so many people were just able to stop them because they were not concerned at all when it came to the quarterback position with Gardner Minshew being able to throw touchdowns. So we've seen success from Anthony Richardson in the red zone. We've seen his ability to throw touchdowns in the red zone. He's going to need to stay healthy, because if he can, I think that this is a Colts team that could win more than what I have here at 6-11. They have the 7th easiest schedule in the league, guys. Notable opponents are only the Packers, Bears, Dolphins, Lions, and Steelers, and then, of course, the Texans that they face in. They do not have a hard schedule at all. It is all going to be on the shoulders. Pressure is going to be on the shoulders of Anthony Richardson to stay healthy, because if he can, I think that this is a team that could be in a low playoff role right behind Houston. If he can't, they're going to have another disappointing season like they did last year at 9-8, and that would really, really be hard to watch with a team that I think has so many underrated names offensively. So will Anthony Richardson be able to stay healthy? That question is yet to be seen. If he does, the Colts are going to flourish. If he doesn't, they end up in the position that I have them now at 6-11. Then we have another very, very interesting team in the Jacksonville Jaguars, who, again, take a little bit of a dip for me. They went 9-8 the previous year. They fall to 6-11 for me. Now, when you look at this, when you look at the additions that they have, you might say, how the heck do you have this team decreasing? They picked up Eric Armstead at tackle. You get Mitch Morse at center, so they have solidified the offensive line veteran-wise. It was another team that struggled in the passing defense last year. They were 26th in passing defense. They picked up Ronald Darby, which is great for them, and they bolstered a little bit of their wide receiver group. They got Gabe Davis from Buffalo, and they got Brian Thomas in the draft. So how does this team somehow get worse? And again, it leads to the quarterback situation. Trevor Lawrence did not have a good season at all last year. 21 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. He took a humongous step back with a team that bolstered their offense last year, just like we saw this year. They got Calvin Ridley for him. They got him a number one receiver. He's not going to have Calvin Ridley this year. And while they have gotten Gabe Davis, while they got Brian Thomas Jr., while they still have Christian Kirk, they still have Evan Ingram. To me, they're all really good players, but there's nobody like a Calvin Ridley who can serve in as that number one option on this team. And I think that's an issue, because it was a team that struggled in the running game, had the 24th rushing offense this past season. I don't see ETN getting better. I think he is a lot more effective when it comes to being a pass-catching running back. He is not really great at making a move in the backfield, making a man miss, and being able to get 5, 6, 7 plus yards out of his rush. He's much more of a passing. The passing offense is fine as long as Trevor Lawrence performs. But again, it's another very single led offense. It's going to be another predictable offense where, despite the additions that they've made, there's not really a lot of huge names. We just mentioned with Indianapolis, you have Jonathan Taylor, one of the top running backs in the league. You have Michael Pittman, one of the most underrated wide receivers in the league, and somebody who has shown his worth. Christian Kirk is not a number one wide receiver for Jacksonville. Brian Thomas Jr., while I think he could grow into that, is not going to be that for them year one. Gabe Davis is somebody who, for a reason, spent his time as the second, third, sometimes fourth best receiver on that Buffalo offense. So you have some guys that can stretch the field, but you're not going to have somebody who is going to be consistent for Trevor Lawrence, who's going to be a consistent target, who is going to form a duo for him, as we have seen out of the great quarterbacks in NFL history. And that's a problem. And it's tough for me to say, because the offensive line is pretty solid. Like I said, they had Eric Armstead. You get Brandon Scherf. You get Mitch Morse. Cam Robinson, while he has struggled a little bit, has improved a little bit. It's a solid offensive line. But the production isn't there from Trevor Lawrence. The offense, from a weapon standpoint, has gotten younger, has not improved. While they've improved in depth, they have not improved in talent. Defensively, you add Ronald Darby to once again what is a very, very lack of depth secondary. You have Tyson Campbell across from him. He's solid, but there's really nobody in that nickelback role. Right now, ESPN has Darnell Savage in that position. Don't think that he's really going to play there. I could see him playing more of a safety role because their safeties, not really much talent there. You have Antonio Johnson, Andre Sisco there, not much that I really like. The linebackers are okay. Forsett Oluokun, who led the Falcons in tackles just a couple of years ago. Devin Lloyd at inside linebacker is solid. But again, you don't have a lot of solid names. Did I say that Eric Armstead was on the offensive line? I'm so sorry. I was thinking about Teron Armstead. Eric Armstead defensively having the pass rush. So I like certain guys on this Jacksonville team. I like Trayvon Walker. I like Eric Armstead. I like Devin Lloyd. I like Trevor Lawrence. I like Travis Etienne, sort of. I like Evan Ingram. I like Brian Thomas. But I just don't think that there are a lot of superstar guys on this team that are going to be able to lead them. Now, them from a schedule standpoint, they have the 14th easiest schedule. So it's kind of a mid-level schedule for them. They have to face teams such as the Dolphins, Browns, Bears, Packers, Eagles, Lions, Jets, which if you look at, Dolphins high-powered offense, Bears high-powered offense, Packers high-powered offense, Lions very high-powered offense, Jets very high-powered offense. They are playing some of the most high-powered offenses in the league, and I'm not sure if this secondary can stick with it. I'm not sure if the pass rush is going to improve just by getting Eric Armstead. It was a team that had the 25th least sacks in the league last year, despite for some reason having the 9th rushing defense. They need to pressure the ball. The secondary needs to hold the receivers longer. And with the quarterbacks, with the offenses that you're playing, it's going to come down to offense versus offense. And I'm just not sure that Jacksonville has the names to compete with said Miami Dolphins, who have Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane, Raheem Mostert, and Tua Tagovailoa. And that's why I have the Jacksonville Jaguars taking a step back this year, which leads to the final team of the day, the Tennessee Titans, who once again are taking a step back. 6-11 last year, they're 5-11 this year. And again, when you look at it, there's more additions than losses. They added Chidobe Awuzie to be their number one cornerback. Has dealt with a little bit of injury, but I think he's been okay. Lloyd Cushenberry, very solid center for Denver for the past couple of years. Tony Pollard, great in Dallas. Calvin Ridley, like we just mentioned, Jacksonville was Trevor Lawrence's main guy. JT Latham, one of the top tackles, thought they should have gone for Talise Fuego, thought that he was a better all-around guard, but I think Latham is definitely going to develop very well. Devondre Swift to bolster what is already a pretty solid passing attack. What is holding this Tennessee Titans team back? Well, number one, they have the 27th easiest schedule in the league. One of the toughest schedules in the league. Bears, Jets, Packers, Dolphins, Chargers, Bengals in there. They have to face the Houston Texans. If the Jags' offense is able to get going, they're going to have to face the Jags. Indianapolis, if their offense is able to get going, they're going to have to face Indianapolis. They have a very, very tough schedule, and they don't have an offensive line. The offensive line is absolutely abysmal from the Tennessee Titans. They added J.C. Latham and Lloyd Cushenberry, but that's 2 out of 5 guys. That's 2 out of 5 guys for Will Levis. And when you have somebody like Will Levis, who at this point I think is at a similar position that somebody like Daniel Jones was in his second year, where he just is going to need to continue to get more time to get comfortable. When you don't give him an offensive line to work out, it's going to be a disaster. And it's unfortunate because the offensive attack is very, very impressive. Tony Pollard, Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins. They picked up Tyler Boyd from Cincinnati. There's a lot of great offensive weapons on this team, but if you cannot protect your quarterback, it's going to be so hard for them. And when you look at their offense last year, 28th in total offense, 29th in passing offense, 17th in rushing offense. Will Levis got sacked the 4th most times last year. They were 29th in passing yards. Sure, you added the weapons. You added the superstar players. But if you don't have that foundation of an offensive line, Will Levis is not going to be able to get those guys the ball. It's a similar position of what the Denver Broncos were dealing with a couple of years back, where they had very solid young players, but their offensive line just didn't allow guys such as Joe Flacco and Drew Lock to really perform and give their weapons the ball. And I think it's going to be a similar position here, where you're going to see Tony Pollard be relied on a lot. I'm not sure if he has that type of consistency. I'm not sure if he can take that much wear and tear on him. I think he's going to get stopped a lot in the backfield, and then they're going to have to go to the passing game, where I think while Levis has some solid options, he's just not going to have enough time to get the ball out, and it's going to stump that offense a lot. Defensively, I think they're going to be able to get a couple of stops. Like I said, they added T'Vondre Swift. They have Jeffrey Simmons still, Harold Landry, Kenneth Murray is solid. Secondary is okay. It's a lot better than some of the other teams that we mentioned in this episode. I like L'Jarius Sneed. I like Chidobe Awuzie. I like their nickelback and Roger McCreary, actually. But it's still a little bit below average for me. And it's once again, it's a defense that is going to be relied on a lot because I just don't think that this offense is going to be able to produce. And again, when you're facing against high-powered offenses in New York, in Miami, Los Angeles, Cincinnati, when you're facing off against these high-powered offenses, I'm not sure if it's enough. It's the problem that I have with the AFC South. I like so many of the players. I like so many pieces that they have, but I'm just not sure that it's enough. I think that the holes outweigh the patches at this point. I think that there's too much flooding in too many of these franchises, too much bleeding more than there is healing. And I think that's the issue is they've gotten better in certain spots. They've added some top-heavy players in the league, but there's just not going to be enough to really get past more complete teams such as Kansas City, such as Miami. Houston is kind of polished, such as LA possibly, who's a lot more polished with their offensive line. Some teams in the NFC, such as Detroit, who's very polished, San Francisco, who is loaded. They're not going to be able to get past those teams. They're just not at that prestige yet. It's going to take another year or two for them to get to that next tier as it pertains to teams such as the Titans, the Jags, and the Indianapolis Colts. And that's really it for me today, guys. That's what I have on the AFC South, a really quick run through. I'm sorry if I was a little bit fast for my words. I was trying to get through all of this in a pretty short time frame. We're just about to end this at about 33 or 34 minutes, so I think I'm okay with that. So if you guys have a little bit of confusion, again, please feel free to write in the comments. I will for sure write you guys back and let me talk through a little bit slowly my thoughts with you guys. Let me know what you did here, what you liked, what you think I got right, what you think I got wrong. And again, if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe. Please like the video. Please go down in the comments. Please share with your friends and follow us on all of our social medias. All of the ads are in the description or in the episode description if you're watching this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And with that, guys, I'm Diego Gallegos. That's it for me today, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.